just like collided and broke up.
Tonight, tragedy over the Hudson. A small plane and a New York City sightseeing helicopter collide. Officials believe all 9 people on board died. I'm Jeff Glor. Also tonight,
I, Sonia Sotomayor, do solemnly swear.
an historic moment at the U.S. Supreme Court. Sonia Sotomayor takes the oath as the first Hispanic justice.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Meet the job savers. Big name companies that have yet to lay off 1 employee in this recession.
This is the CBS Evening News with Jeff Glor.
And good evening. 7 months after a miracle plane landing on the Hudson River in New York, there was another incident there today, this one with a much different result. Shortly after noon, a small plane and a sightseeing helicopter collided. This is what it looked like just moments after that collision. This happened between Lower Manhattan and New Jersey, and officials say that all 9 people on board were killed. Early show weather anchor Dave Price is a licensed private pilot who actually just flew this route yesterday. He joins us from near the crash site tonight. Dave, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Jeff. This area over the Hudson River where the collision occurred has spectacular views that pilots and their passengers flock to see. But it's a narrow corridor and there's little room for error.
There's a big puff of smoke and a boom a couple seconds afterwards.
Rescue crews from New York and New Jersey raced to the Hudson River to search for survivors from the mid-air collision, but that effort was for naught.
This has changed from a rescue to a recovery mission.
There were 5 Italian tourists on a sightseeing helicopter along with its pilot, and 3 people aboard a small single-engine prop plane. The Liberty Tours Eurocopter A-Star 350 had just taken off from Manhattan's west side. The Piper PA-32 left New Jersey's Teterboro Airport bound for the Jersey Shore. Both were soon over the Hudson.
It is a crowded, busy area, and generally pilots that fly in this area are well trained, and they certainly have plenty of practice flying in that.
Living in the city, you see a lot of the helicopters that tour around Manhattan, and it was pretty shocking.
At this point, it's unknown what communications were broadcast from either aircraft. In this narrow corridor of uncontrolled airspace, pilots typically announce their location, direction, altitude, and intention.
We heard a pop and we looked and we saw a small plane and a helicopter. They apparently had collided and they immediately fell into the river.
Witnesses say both aircraft sank quickly. Divers located the wreckage of the helicopter 30 feet below the water's surface in murky conditions. Memories are still fresh here of the celebrated U.S. Airways emergency landing on these same waters in January. Today's outcome, though, tragically different.
This is not going to have a happy ending like when the Airbus went down on the river where everybody survived.
Now, late this afternoon, the NTSB has dispatched a GO team to begin to piece together just how this crash could have happened on what should have been a perfect day for flying. Jeff?
Dave, as we mentioned off the top, you did just fly this route yesterday. I remember we were talking about this yesterday morning. How difficult is it?
Well, this airspace is tricky even for experienced pilots. You have low altitude flying, under 1,000 feet in most cases, lots of aircraft and high speeds. It doesn't give you a lot of options, room, or time to react, so it's tough.
All right, Dave Price joining us from New York tonight. Dave, thank you for your time. Now, 2 days after winning Senate confirmation, Sonia Sotomayor took the oath today as the 111th Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. That ceremony was historic on a number of counts. Kimberly Dozier in Washington has more.
I, Sonia Sotomayor.
Sonia Sotomayor today became the first Hispanic, the third minority, and the third woman to join the Supreme Court in more than 200 years.
As an Associate Justice of the
And it's the first time we've seen this moment on TV. Chief Justice John Roberts swearing in the court's newest member.
So help me God.
Congratulations and welcome to the court.
Her mother was at her side, the woman who'd raised Sotomayor on her own. She told her daughter she could become anything she put her mind to. Today, this self-described Puerto Rican girl from the South Bronx became living proof of that. And her moment here
Go, Sonia!
was celebrated across her hometown.
I'm just joyous. She's Latina.
This is our moment, el puertorriqueño Latino moment, people of color.
Some are hoping she'll champion women's and minority rights. Others fear she'll lean left as the first appointee by a Democratic president in 15 years.
A judge embraces empathy at the expense of objectivity.
The experts say it often takes 3 to 4 years before a new justice's pattern becomes clear. She's replacing David Souter, who turned out to be far more liberal than the first Bush White House expected.
My sense is she is going to be moderately liberal like Justice Souter was, and in some ways more conservative.
Her first day of work comes early. The court season officially begins in October, but there's a special session on campaign finance reform in September. Her colleagues say she's already started studying the case. Jeff?
All right, Kimberly Dozier in Washington this evening. Kimberly, thank you. We've heard a lot the past couple months about Justice Sotomayor's long career as a lawyer, prosecutor, and federal judge. But her friends say she has another, more personable side. Wyatt Andrews has that story.
What you might not know about Sonia Sotomayor is that she's not always the reserved workaholic judge she portrayed in the Senate hearings.
Judge Sotomayor, she's so different.
Different because, according to friends like former law clerk Allison Barkoff, the judge has a big, engaging New York personality.
Yeah, she is fun. She works hard and she plays hard.
She's incredibly funny.
Melissa Murray clerked for 2 federal judges, including Sotomayor. And when both judges came to Melissa's wedding, Sotomayor challenged the other judge to a dance-off.
I think people enjoyed seeing 2 federal judges duel it out on the dance floor.
The judge is also known for her can't-miss Christmas parties, which included salsa dancing inside the Federal Court of Appeals in Manhattan.
Out in the hallway.
Of the courthouse?
Of the courthouse with a great spread of food and usually a DJ.
But what Allison also recalls from the party is that Sotomayor knew and invited everyone in the courthouse.
The people who work in the cafeteria, the security guards, the custodians are equally as important as her colleagues.
In Manhattan today, a group at the Development School for Youth celebrated the judge's swearing in. For years, Sotomayor has asked them, disadvantaged kids from the inner city, to come to court and stage a mock trial of Goldilocks on burglary charges. As they became the jury, prosecution, and the witnesses, Melissa recalls seeing the light go on.
The underlying goal is to make sure that these kids see that there's something else that's possible.
To her friends, this is what the public did not see in the hearings. A woman who, the more powerful she got, the less she changed. One of her best friends is federal judge Miriam Cederbaum.
I think that Judge Sotomayor will be an inspiration to many people. She has been already.
It's not as if the Supreme Court doesn't already have its engaging characters or a fun Christmas party. It has both. But Sotomayor is bringing another level of energy and high-octane personality to the nation's highest court. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, at the Supreme Court.
In his weekly radio address today, President Obama went after critics of health care reform. He said they've been misleading the public and spreading, quote, outlandish rumors to prevent reform. Mr. Obama is staking a lot on winning the health care battle, and lately he is not having an easy time. CBS's John Dickerson has more now.
With members of Congress hearing firsthand from their constituents, President Obama says he thinks the chances for health care reform will improve. But he may be the only one.
When people are out of Washington, that is the most precarious time for this legislation. And so the president's going to have to stay connected. He can't afford to lose one day.
Former Senator Tom Daschle would know. He tried to get President Clinton's health care bill through Congress in the early 90s. So did pollster Stan Greenberg.
We're at a tipping point. We're at a moment where we have finally reached a point where there's some progress in the Congress, but the public's right at the edge.
That's because there are 5 bills, thousands of pages of different policies. The public is understandably confused, but the president may have no one to blame but himself.
You will pass and I will sign.
Mr. Clinton dictated terms to Congress and failed. Mr. Obama took the opposite approach.
One of the approaches that I've tried to take is to not just put down my plan and say it's my way or the highway.
Watch Congress do its work. Are you kidding? The U.S. Congress? And that's why they have to take the process back, I think, now to the White House and go at this in a very different way.
So now the president will try to convince people with coverage that they're not going to lose it. That'll be a tough sell. A recent CBS New York Times poll says that more than 2/3 worry that a government plan will affect the quality of their care. Almost 3/4 think it will limit their access. 81% say it will lead to job cuts. The deficit is another concern.
When they hear that this will cost $8 trillion, that it will raise the deficit by about $260+ billion, that hurts it as well.
Republicans feel they've got a winning argument. After costly bank bailouts and stimulus spending, they say no more. President Obama knows what he's fighting against, but he still has to wait for Congress to give him a specific program that he can fight for. And then he's got to hope that by that time, the American people are still willing to listen. John Dickerson, CBS News, Washington.
Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, is this young man the next big star in the world of sports? And when we come back, two big companies that are saying no to layoffs. Even though the government reported the unemployment rate actually went down in July from 9.5% to 9.4%, many economists expect the rate to hit double digits before going down again for good. Some companies, though, are bucking the trend, doing anything they can to keep workers. Mark Strassman now has two cases in point.
Amen.
Amen. Alonzo and Delonda Burns needed both their incomes and were worried. Her job was moving to Texas.
It's going to mean I'm going to miss your first game.
And unless she moved there from Columbus, Georgia, she'd lose her job. But he worked at Aflac, which has no offices in Texas.
There would be a sacrifice somewhere.
And a job loss.
And a job loss.
To capture the data.
Aflac has 4,700 employees and a reputation of doing whatever it takes to keep all of them.
We will let an unproductive worker go in a minute. But if you're a great employee, we want to do everything in our power to keep you.
And Aflac was determined to keep Burns. So the company retrained him to telecommute from the family's new home in Texas.
It meant the world to the whole family.
Aflac offers insurance to customers and a different peace of mind to employees. It's on a short list of major American companies that has never laid off anyone. Another one is the Container Store.
So how's business?
It's not very good. Our sales are down.
So in Dallas, CEO Kip Tyndall has cut costs everywhere but his payroll.
I do worry sometimes that some people just sort of knee-jerk the layoff as the first option. It should certainly be the last option.
And if I don't perform, I'm not.
Dan Amos, Aflac CEO, even gave up his bonus and his golden parachute, worth about $16 million, and helped save 500 jobs.
I think it did send a message to employees because the employees know that I care.
If business gets significantly worse, both CEOs say layoffs could still happen.
We've got 3 sales going on right now.
But Susan Uff doesn't brood about it.
If that were to happen, I would sincerely know that everything had been done to avoid that.
So we have 20?
With so much job insecurity out there,
do something!
Some workers actually trust their paychecks will keep coming.
My hero!
Mark Strassman, CBS News, Columbus, Georgia.
Major League Baseball today says some of the players on a list of those who tested positive for drug use in 2003 did not necessarily test positive for steroids. And the Players Union said some of the positives may have been caused by nutritional supplements. Boston slugger David Ortiz, whose name is on the list, denied today ever using steroids, but said he used some supplements. Next up on tonight's CBS Evening News, meet the young man who some say has the potential to be better than Tiger Woods. When you've been anointed one of the world's next great sports stars, it's not impossible to meet expectations, but it's not easy. Which is why all eyes in the golfing world are on Rory McIlroy right now. From the start, McIlroy's destiny seemed sealed. At age 2, a 40-yard drive on the golf course. He was hitting holes in one by 9, played his first professional event at 16, and went pro at 17. The kind of expectations his accomplishments create can be crushing. But now 20, McIlroy, from a small coastal village in Northern Ireland called Hollywood, if you can believe it, is trying not to get swept up in the star machine.
I know that I've got a long career ahead of me, and I'm just trying to pace myself a little bit.
Thank you. No problem.
You come from a working class background. Yeah. Has that helped you?
I think so. I know how hard I've worked, and I know how hard my parents have worked.
To support their son's dream, McIlroy's mother worked night shifts at a factory. His father, 2 jobs as a bar manager.
You know, I wanted to become the best golfer that I could be, and they supported me, you know, every step of the way.
Then, in January, a breakthrough. A place in the top 15 on golf's world rankings, spurred by his first tour victory.
I've dreamt about that for so long, and for my parents to be there and to witness, you know, that firsthand was an incredible feeling.
Back home in Europe, Ireland especially, he's a huge celebrity. Here, not quite yet, despite enormous praise. One fellow golfer said McIlroy's swing at 19 was better than Tiger Woods at that age. Woods himself says McIlroy has all the components to be the best player in the world.
It's arguably the best golf swing in golf right now, which is really saying something, and that includes Tiger Woods. And that's not me talking, that's a lot of players talking.
Are the comparisons to Tiger fair?
Probably not. I don't know how good I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years' time. If I can win half the events that Tiger has, I'll be very happy.
Shy and reserved by nature, the only thing seemingly wild about McIlroy is his hair.
I get the sense that you don't love being on the front pages for other things besides golf.
No, I'm a golfer. That's all I've wanted to do since I was a little boy.
When you're not golfing, what are you doing?
I'm practicing.
McIlroy and his intentionally small circle of advisors have studied athletes who've done it right and wrong.
He certainly has a sense of himself as being someone with a real gift, but he's not making that gift public. He's keeping that gift something that he manages and not others around him manage.
That gift was apparent from the very first swing we saw him take in person.
In? Are you serious? That was almost in.
Almost a hole-in-one, which he took in stride, in keeping with the plan.
I have to say to myself sometimes, like, you're only 20, you've got a 30-year golf career ahead of you. You don't have to rush it.
That is the CBS Evening News tonight. Later on CBS, 48 Hours Mystery. Russ Mitchell will be here tomorrow night. I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York. Good night.